How you doing, guys? We're back with episode 232 of the Creative Condition podcast this week. My name is Ben Talon, as ever, your host, and the highlights and the full-length episode are out now. It's with Richard Taylor, who is the founding member of Brandon Consultants. Now, Brandon are a design, visual identity, branding agency working globally with clients including the likes of Coca-Cola and Wagamama and Horlicks and Seabrook. I mentioned those two because they're two of the cooler projects they've worked on that we discuss in this week's episode of the show. You can get it now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Amazon Music and wherever else you get your podcasts. It's out there now in highlights format and in full-length format. So if you're a little time poor and you can't spare the time to do an hour and a half of a podcast, then there's a 40-minute crisp trimmed episode that's tailor-made for you, for that dog walk, for that commute, for whatever it might be. But let's get into it. What have I learned this week from Richard Taylor from Brandon Consultants? Well, the first one is that roots grow deep. I'm a massive believer in origin stories, and it's why I always ask my guests about their childhood. Now, Richard was born in Sheffield, but he grew up in a lot of his formative years in Saudi Arabia and the Middle East. And he talks about that and the difference that gave him, the difference in perspective and learning other cultures and hearing different storytelling and the contrast between Sheffield and Saudi Arabia, and how that now plays a part in his day-to-day creativity, the way he interprets difference, has conversations, deals with his clients, appreciates local customs and nuance, enables to get people energized and get people working on the same page and having positive relationships, which of course enables great creativity. Number two, you don't have to reinvent the wheel to innovate. So the stories that I mentioned that Richard tells are about work for Seabrooks, based in Bradford, a crisp brand, crisp snacks, and also Horlicks. In both cases, they kept the real estate, which was the logo, and the heritage brand identity, which has resonated with people who've consumed their products for many generations. Recently, we've been seeing the likes of Burberry do away with logos that have got that cultural heritage, completely scrapping them and going with a really dull serif font, which is baffling to me, and I believe it comes down to engaging with a younger audience. But I don't think simplification and insulting the intelligence of your market is the way to go about that. And I think that Brandon do that really well. So they've kept the essentials, the essence of the brand by stripping away everything you can strip away, so that it still keeps what makes that brand lovable and resonates with their client base, and then bringing something new and contemporary to the rest of the packaging or the website or whatever it is they're working on. And he tells great stories about how they went about doing that to produce really great work for those brands. Number three, considered candour saves everyone time and frees up creativity. So Richard has got a reputation for being quite outspoken and opinionated. Don't think either of those are bad things. In fact, I think they're really good things, and I think that he proves that in this week's episode. Because if you've got honesty and authenticity in the workplace, and you know where you stand, and you know when someone who's got creative merit speaks up about something that isn't right and wants to get to the core of the problem to make it right, then it just makes it a better environment for everyone. It creates a better positive energy for everyone to work in, and people know where they stand. People can create great work, have opinions of their own and ideas, and not be shot down for it. So that's a really good point. I think honesty and opinion, as long as they're considered, are really, really good things. Number four, helping the human in front of you. This is a big part of Brandon's ethos as an agency. It's about working with the person in front of you first and foremost to understand and appreciate their problem, where they want to position themselves, and how you can help them with creativity. If you can do that, you lay great foundations for great work. Now, Richard tells stories of spending at least half a day to a day with a client before they even talk about business, to understand where they are, what's their problems, where they are in their lives, in their business, and how can you bring something to the table. And if at that stage things don't feel right, if you don't want to go to the pub or have a drink with that person, then maybe it's better to call it quits and let them go and work with somebody else that might be a better fit. But helping the human in front of you is always a great place to start. And I think if you can do that, you create a dynamic and a relationship that is really conducive to, allowing imagination and invention and innovation to flourish. And I think we all end up better for that. And I think anybody who's had that experience with a client will echo that sentiment. And the last one, if someone works hard and is good at what they do, get out of the way. Richard might have opinions, but he speaks about the absence of ego in branding and how it's really important. And the moment that comes into play, they're out. There's no place for it because nobody wins. And ego only ever blocks creativity and inhibits ideas. So, let people do their job. Bring people in that you trust. Bring them in because of their character and their professional proficiency, and let them do their thing. Place trust in them and they will deliver for you. I've seen so many examples in my 16 years in the creative industry to support that. And Richard tells it well. So you can check out all of this in full format now on Spotify and all that stuff. Creative Condition Podcast, the highlights episode or the full length episode. Episode 232 is out now. Loads more coming up. Keep in touch. Give us your comments. Get in touch. Let us know. Connect with the show. Nice one, guys. Cheers.